Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really immersing ourselves in a pretty harrowing journey. It follows a character, Henryk, who's just weighed down by this immense guilt.
Yeah, and he chooses exile, essentially. Leaves his, relatively sheltered post-collapse city.
Right, he walks 500 kilometers just trying to find anything different,
Mm.
carrying this just crushing shame from a mistake he made.
A boar hunt, wasn't it? Went tragically wrong.
Exactly. Killed two people, and the result, he was completely shunned by his community, just ostracized.
And that starting point, his original home, the campus, it's really key to understanding why he's so desperate.
Describe the campus a bit for us. What was it like?
Well, think palisaded city, very rigid. The absolute core rule was stay together, stay safe. Survival meant constant management of scarcity.
So rationing, things like that?
Oh, yeah. Relentless rationing. They even built these special trash-burning stoves just to squeeze every bit of fuel they could.
Okay, so it provided safety, maybe, but you mentioned a cost.
A huge social cost. The
Yeah.
whole system ran on control. And if you broke the rules or, like Henryk, caused a disaster, you were out. Ejected.
So for Henryk, that guilt wasn't just him feeling bad. It was like built into the
It
system.
was institutionalized, yeah. They basically told him his mistake wasn't just an error, it was a choice. A choice that made him a lethal liability.
Wow. A lethal liability. That's harsh.
It is. So he leaves this world, let's call it the stagnant net, right? The structure built from the skeleton of the old world.
And our mission here really is to compare that system to the one he finds out on the frontier, a place called Sprucedown.
Exactly. And we need to see how both of these approaches, well, they ultimately fail their people, especially in a world dealing with resource collapse and this strange infection. Cadastromyces. CAD.
But let's pause on CAD for a second, because it seems like it really shapes these societies, doesn't it?
Fundamentally, yeah.
So for you listening, CAD is this infectious agent, probably fungal, causes these visible marks, blue or green, sometimes writhing under the skin.
But the key thing, socially speaking, is what it does to the hosts. It makes them pathologically risk-averse.
Terrified of change, of risk, of leaving anywhere familiar.
Precisely. And that explains so much about the campus, why it was so incredibly rigid.
Its whole structure is basically dictated by CAD's influence on their minds. They just want to eliminate risk above all else.
Totally. Yeah. So when Henryk finally, after this month-long trek, stumbles into Sprucedown, which is hidden, camouflaged in this green bowl of land, the shock is immediate.
And it hits him through the resources, right? The wealth.
It's the wood, the sheer abundance of wood. You gotta remember, back at the campus, they're scavenging tiny fallen branches for these super efficient enclosed stoves.
Right, saving every scrap.
Then he sees Sprucedown, buildings made of full, massive logs. They're burning huge amounts of wood in open hearths just for cooking.
To him, that must have seemed like absolute recklessness, insane luxury.
An impossible wealth. And, that wealth creates totally different social vibe. He's not just ignored, he's seen as a threat.
Like an imposter. Or maybe a scout for raiders.
Exactly that. He gets this hostile reception right away from Dane, who's the adopted son of the guy who sort of reluctantly takes Henryk in. It's not passive shunning like the campus, it's active suspicion.
Because they have something to lose. They fear loss.
Precisely. And that hostility, it's enforced from the top by the leader, Bo.
Bo, okay, tell us about him.
Well, he basically got rid of the town council, set himself up as the absolute authority. His word is law. Anything I say goes. That was his mantra.
And a strict no outsiders rule, unless claimed by family, like Henryk sort of was.
Right. Sprucedown is just defined by this intolerance for risk, coupled with a hyper-focus on production.
And the rationing system reflects that, doesn't it? You said Henry found it terrifyingly bureaucratic.
Yeah, compared to the sort of basic safety net of the campus, Sprucedown was all about strict time cards. Your rations depended entirely on your work output. You work full-time, you eat full-time.
You don't contribute.
You starve. Or close to it. It's a brutal efficiency.
So two fundamentally different survival models. One's like maybe a socialist safety net built on scarcity. The campus.
Sort of, yeah.
Hmm?
And the other, Sprucedown, is this harsh, almost hyper-capitalist production machine, forced efficiency.
But wait. If CAD makes people risk-averse, how does a place like Sprucedown function? Especially a frontier town. And you mentioned Bo, the leader. He has CAD, right? You can see the marks.
He does. Blue and green marks.
Yeah.
Writhing under his skin sometimes. It's visible. And that's a fantastic question. How does he lead?
Yeah. How does a risk-averse leader run a high-production, potentially high-risk place?
Okay, so Bo didn't magically overcome his cat aversion. He systemized it. He made himself the absolute authority, right? And then he delegated all the high-risk stuff, the decisions, the dangerous jobs to others, the uninfected or specialized teams.
So he insulated himself from the actual risk-taking.
Pretty much. His job became control, maintenance, keeping the system running, not adapting or taking chances himself. He made himself, in effect, unbothered by risk management.
That's fascinating. So even in this productive society, that core need to avoid risk still shaped the leadership structure.
Absolutely. And that delegation of risk, it brings us to something else Henryk noticed that was really surprising. The dogs.
Right. The dogs. Because the campus avoided them.
Strictly avoided them. Dogs get cad easily, apparently. Leads to feral packs, unpredictability. Exactly what a cat-influenced, risk-averse society hates.
But Sprucedown has dogs. Lots of them.
Lots of working dogs, essential ones like Dane's dog, Ada. For security, herding maybe, it's a core part of their setup.
Okay, so that's a paradox. How'd they manage that?
Well, it shows Sprucedown's calculating nature. They figured the reward security was worth the risk of cat and the dogs. But managing that, keeping working dogs healthy and non-feral in that world, that takes huge effort, resources, constant vigilance.
So it proves they're not just wealthy, but willing to take very calculated risks when the payoff is essential. Unlike the campus, which just said, nope, zero tolerance for that potential threat.
Exactly. It's a different kind of risk management. Calculated, not absolute avoidance.
Okay, so Sprucedown's wealth and security come from this ruthless centralized labor system. Let's dig into the engine behind it all. The Sprucedown farm, it wasn't just about food, was it?
No, not at all. It was actually quite philosophical. They weren't just rebuilding for humans, they were actively trying to restore the land.
How so?
They were really focused on planting native species like black spruce. And they didn't just, stick saplings in the ground and hope for the best.
No.
No, they gave them these little care packages. Compost, soil, specific seeds, even old needles from mature trees to make sure the sapling grew with its buddies, its natural ecological partners.
That sounds surprisingly thoughtful, almost gentle compared to the social system.
It really is. And the driving force behind this is Isabel, the greenhouse boss. Her philosophy is key here. She tells Henryk something like, most places just need a leg up, not a miracle.
A leg up, not a miracle.
I like that. Yeah. They weren't trying to force the land back to some imagined pre-collapse glory. They were just giving it a nudge, helping it continue on a path it could naturally sustain. It's patient ecology.
Which is completely at odds with their impatient, demanding social code.
Totally. And that disconnect, that's where Henryk runs into serious trouble. He's the city boy, right? He lacks the practical skills.
He struggles to fit in, to contribute enough.
Oh, massively. He gets terribly seasick, just canoeing across the lake, nearly flips the canoe. Then there's this confusing incident with a bear grazing him while he's sleeping outside. He just keeps messing up.
So he goes from being the social liability at the campus
to the physical liability at Sprucedown. He can barely manage to build the minimum required cabin because nobody has time to help someone who's seen as dragging down productivity.
Ouch. And does anyone spell this out for him?
Isabel does. She gives him the cold, hard truth of this place, tells him straight up, secrets are difficult here, and then the real kicker. We don't deal well with liabilities.
No room for error, no safety net if you can't pull your weight.
None. In a community built entirely on measured output and efficiency, someone who consumes resources without producing, well, mathematically, they're unacceptable. That's the social contract. Contribute, or you're a problem.
It's a system built for maximum yield, maybe? But it sounds like it sacrifices a lot of, well, humanity.
It does. And that rigidity, that zero tolerance policy, especially towards outsiders, threats like raiders, that sets them up for the fall.
Raiders, they saw them as vampires, right?
Right.
Scavengers wanting to live off their hard work.
Exactly. Dane even mentions that pretty much every adult in Sprucedown has probably had to kill a raider at some point. It's a constant threat they prepare for.
They even had specific whistle codes for alarms.
Yeah, like 3 short blasts for a potential threat, 2 long for fire, 6 short for a fight breaking out. Very organized defense protocols.
But protocols don't always work, especially when things get messy.
No, they don't. The Raiders, this group called the Undivided Alliance, led by a guy named Nixon, they finally show up, the alarms go off. But Henryk,
What happens to Henryk?
he gets lost during a drill just before the attack. Some workmates played a prank, sent him the wrong way, so he's separated, confused, and the Raiders capture him.
Oh, no. And Henryk,
Yeah.
he wasn't good at lying, was he? back at the campus with the boar hunt.
Exactly. He's terrified, exhausted. He can't lie effectively, so he ends up giving Nixon crucial intelligence.
Like the town layout, defenses.
And worse, those specific whistle codes. He tells them what the signals mean.
That's bad. That's really bad. And this Nixon, the Raider leader,
Also has CAD, visibly. But his philosophy is like Bo's, just twisted for aggression. He even uses this perverse take on an old saying.
Which one?
The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. For Nixon, it means his oath to his Raider covenant trumps any other human bond, any family tie, absolute loyalty to the group.
Chilling. So the Raiders attack, armed with Henryk's intel. How does Sprucedown's zero-tolerance defense hold up?
It collapses under brutality. Bo refuses to surrender initially. So Nixon, he does something horrific to break their will. He executes a young girl, Sage, right there in front of everyone, just to force Bo's hand.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Bo tries to rally a counterattack shortly after, but he's killed too. The Raiders weren't looking for a fight. They wanted quick conquest, immediate control of the resources.
And Henryk Mandrusiak. What's he doing during all this? Still captured.
Yes, but then comes his turning point. Dane, the guy who first met him, actually rescues him from where the captives are being held.
Okay, so he's free. What does he do?
He remembers the whistle codes he gave away, and he uses that knowledge, his own failure, as a weapon.
How?
He blows the Raider signal for reinforcements, 3 short, 2 long, throws the Raiders guarding the captives into chaos, thinking more of their own guys are coming when they aren't.
Clever. Using their own system against them.
Weaponizing his mistake. But his final act is even more desperate, more decisive.
What does he do?
Arson. He sets fire to the main storehouse.
The storehouse. What?
Because that's where the Raiders were consolidating all the food and supplies they'd stolen. It was the heart of their conquest, the only thing they were really focused on defending. It's desperate, yes, but also incredibly symbolic. He finally gets the currency of power in this world. Fire is the one tool he has to take away the only thing these Raiders value. Their stolen loot, their future meals.
He wasn't trying to save Sprucedown anymore.
No, he was trying to destroy the value of the Raiders' victory, to hit them where it hurt most.
So the battle ends, but the town
is devastated. The fire spreads. Half the town, a big chunk of that precious tree farm, gone. The rigid structure couldn't handle the shock. It broke.
And what happens to the survivors? Like Isabel.
Isabel is wounded, but alive. And she has this profound realization. She argues the fire proves their whole idea of a permanent settlement was wrong from the start.
What'd she suggest instead?
Returning to their people's older nomadic ways, to move, follow the herds, have summer camps and winter camps, touch the land gently. Adaptability, not rigidity.
And Henry Mandrusiak?
Yeah?
Does he stay? Go nomadic?
No, he leaves Sprucedown. But this time, he sees it differently. Not running away, but moving towards something.
Towards where?
Back home. Back towards the campus city. And there, he finds his best friend, Reed. She's also returned for her mother's funeral.
So they reconnect. And they must have had a lot to talk about, comparing notes.
Absolutely. They start putting it all together, analyzing these 2 failed models they've both experienced in different ways.
The campus, the safety net that traps you, stops growth.
And Sprucedown, the rigid, productive machine that's too brittle, too unforgiving of human liability, too focused on one place.
So neither worked. What's their conclusion?
That they need something else. A 4th way, they call it. A path that allows for choice, for freedom, for people to, stretch and grow and do stupid stuff.
To fail, essentially, without being totally crushed or kicked out by the system.
Exactly. It's a huge evolution for Henryk Mandrusiak, right? The guy who started as the embodiment of failure now realizes that failure, or at least the possibility of failure and learning from it, has to be part of any sustainable system.
Yeah, he sees how the structure is built to save them. Extreme control on one hand, extreme productivity on the other actually became the cages.
They stopped adaptation, stopped learning. They're looking for a system designed not just for surviving, but for learning, for resilience.
So recapping Henry's journey, we saw these 2 starkly different societies. The campus. Stagnant safety, Sprucedown, unforgiving, productive survivalism, and ultimately both fail their people psychologically or physically.
Yeah, they lacked that tolerance for human imperfection, for the messiness needed to adapt to big shocks. This 4th way Henryk and Reed are searching for seems to be about finding that balance, community needs versus individual freedom, including the freedom to mess up.
Which leaves us, and you listening, with a really interesting question, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If real knowledge, real resilience comes from hard experience, from failure, What's the right amount of risk? How much liability does a truly sustainable community need to tolerate?
That's the core tension, isn't it? Can a society built purely for safety ever really grow or adapt? Or does every successful future have to be built, maybe intentionally, on a foundation that accepts, even learns from, the ashes of past mistakes?
Something to definitely think about.